Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Mr. Brother Bayan here to bring you a quick lesson. Prior to get started, I want to give infinite honors and prayers to Yahweh, by Shimi Yahushai, by Shimmer Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, you Akim, you Akwat, which you brothers and sisters in the Hebrew that believe. All right, and I pray that this lesson I'm about to go into is going to be edifying. I'm about to read a good bit in this in the book of St. Luke, chapter 12. I've been meditating on. It was really like the second half of it, of this section of the parable that Yahweh Shai was breaking down. But I think now just reading through it, I'm pretty much probably about to get the whole thing. So it's about to be from verse 35 to Luke 12 and 35, all the way to about 47, 48, Salakia. And I'm gonna jump back and forth in the KJV and the NLT too, to make it a little bit more edifying, But kicking it off, the title above says in the KJV, be in readiness. In the NLT, it says, be ready for the Lord's coming. All right, so Luke 12 and 35, it says, let your loins be girded about and your lights burning. All right, NLT says, be dressed for service and keep your lamps burning. All right, so what that's going into is pretty much, staying, in the knowing. All right, having that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. All right, that's how with that oil, they have the parable of the foolish virgins and the wise virgins. All right, but the 5 wise virgins who had the oil in their lamps, they had that discernment, they had that understanding, that wisdom, knowledge, understanding, given from the Lord. All right, they didn't throw that understanding away. Okay, and it says, verse 36, and ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knock it, they may open unto him immediately. All right, if you have that understanding, when the Lord knocks, he's coming to sup with you. So if you don't have that understanding, you're not going to open that door. All right, and it could go along definitely with this parable that the Lord is breaking down, but also too, when it talks about what it can go into is when the Lord knocks on that door, which is the doorpost is on your head, which is spoken in the book of Revelation, which I'm gonna get. The Lord's going to come and sup with you. All right, it says, Revelation chapter 3 and 20, it says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. All right, a lot of people don't hear that voice. A lot of people don't hear the Lord, and they're not going to open that door, like I just said. All right, but if you have that understanding, the sheep hears the Lord's voice. The sheep of the Lord will hear his voice. So when we hear that the things that we're supposed to do, the Lord is going to come and sup with us, basically. All right, but continuing on in St. Luke, it says, verse 37, blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily, I say unto you, that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. All right. What it says in NLT says, the servants who are ready and waiting for his return will be rewarded. I tell you the truth, he himself will seat them, put on an apron, and serve them as they sit and eat. All right. Let me see. I'm trying to decide if I want to keep jumping back and forth, but I think it's good. It says, verse 38, and if he shall come in a second watch, this is a KJV, or come in a third watch and find them so, blessed are those servants. All right. And the NLT says, he may come in the middle of the night or just before dawn, but whenever he comes, he will reward the servants who are ready. All right. And how can you be ready? The only way you can be ready ultimately if the Lord has given you the Spirit. All right. But how do you receive that Spirit? By doing the works. All right. Doing everything that the Lord is requiring you to do. Doing the will of Yahweh by Shemi Yahushai. All right. That's why you need to have your lamp lit. All right. You need to be fervent in spirit. All right. You need to be willing to sacrifice all the things, that is needed, to have the Lord come and sup with you. All right. But it's going to be a reward for those that's on that watch and waiting for the Lord to come, But it says, verse 39, it says, and this known in the KJV, and this know that if the good man of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not have suffered his house to be broken through. NLT says, understand this, if a homeowner knew exactly when a burglar was coming, he would not permit his house to be broken into. All right, if you knew, again, it tells you that the Lord is coming as a thief in the night. All right, so it'll be wise, it'll behoove you, to be on watch, for these things, before the Lord to come. All right, so if you know if a thief is going to come, yeah, you're gonna be sitting there probably in your rocking chair waiting with your weapon of choice, But if you're not ready for it, man, the thief gonna come in and have him a good feast of your belongings. All right. But it says, verse 40 in the KJV, be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when ye think not, as a thief in the night. In NLT, you also must be ready all the time, for the Son of Man will come when least expected. You need to be ready at all times. All right, so you can't get caught lacking in this thing. All right, but verse 41 in the KJV says, then Peter said unto him, Lord, speakest thou this parable unto us, or even to all? All right, NLT, Peter asked, Lord, is that illustration just for us or for everyone? Verse 42, it says in the KJV, and the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise steward whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season? All right. NLT says, and the Lord replied, a faithful, sensible servant is one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. All right, you got to understand what's on the line. All right, this is us being heirs to the throne and ruling with Yahushua. All right. So with that being said, he doesn't want somebody that's going to be unresponsible ruling with him. He wants somebody that's again doing the things that he's supposed to be doing and being responsible, with their duties. All right, which is what he's talking about with this household servant. All right, but verse 43 in the KJV says, blessed is that servant whom his Lord when he cometh shall find so doing. If the master, in the NLT, if the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. All right, brothers like to bring out the the stories back when we was younger, that when it was around that time that you was able to stay in the house by yourself and your mom and your daddy at work and stuff, they'll probably have some chores for you. Do these dishes, do this, do that, and the third, boom, boom, boom. Sometimes not sometimes, well, depending on, who you are, you may have gotten allowance for doing all these things. You have your reward for, doing all these tasks that they ask you to do. All right. And it was a wonderful feeling to knock that, get it all out the way and just be ready for when my mom to get home, when my dad to get home, that I did all this work, and I'm just waiting for my reward now, the whole time. All right. But it says, verse 44 in the KJV, of a truth I say unto you that he will make him ruler over all that he had. All right. In the NLT, I tell you the truth that the master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. All right. Because now that you've done what I've asked you to do, while I was gone, the word is slipping my head. I believe that you could, I have trust in you. I believe that if I put a task in front of you, you're going to do it. All right. You're not going to half-ass. You're not going to bullshit. All right. But it says, verse 45, it says, and if that servant say in his heart, my Lord delayed his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink, and to be drunken. All right. The Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him in sunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. All right. All right. So that means that when the Lord told you that he was coming back, that they got that one person that try to, which I did it a couple of times when I was a child, but, you wait to the very last minute, when you hear your mama, you hear them doors close, as soon as you hear them doors close, you run to the kitchen and start running the water in the sink. You know, trying to make it like you just, you know, you've been in that working the whole time, but knowing damn well you just started doing the dishes. All right. But, you know, again, in this matter right here, the Lord is, you know, telling you that the servant think, all right, the Lord, he say he coming back, but I don't know when. But I don't think I don't think it's gonna be no time soon. So let me party and bullshit. All right, let me you know lollygag and you know do all these things, you know, that I could be doing after I finish the work. But no, let me do this now. And you know, whenever the Lord get here, you know, I'm gonna try to hurry up and get it done. And that's not the case. All right, it says again in 46, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him in asunder, and will appoint him in his portion with the unbelievers. All right, going to be with the basically as an unbeliever. You didn't believe from the beginning, man. All right. In NLT it says, but what if that servant thinks my master won't be back for a while, and he begins beating the other servants, partying and getting drunk? The master will return unannounced, unexpected, and will cut the servant in pieces and banish him with the unfaithful. All right, verse 47 says in the KJV, and that servant which knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, should be beaten with many stripes. All right, so you know better. So you're going to get a bigger ass whooping than somebody you know who doesn't know, which is going to go into the next verse. All right, but it says verse 48, but he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much of him, they will ask the more. All right. So overall, moral of the story is no excuses. All right. The word is out. You know, the word has traveled far from the four corners of the earth. You know, the word is out, man. We know that we're Israelites according to the Bible. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. You know what you're supposed to be doing. You know that you're supposed to be on the highways and byways preaching and coming into the Lord. You know, doing everything that the Lord has given us to do. You know, we have tasks that we need to be attaining to right now. We have spiritual chores that we need to be attaining to right now. All right, but you know, the Lord is not giving excuses to nobody. All right, the Lord tells you that He's not a respecter of persons. All right, so again in verse 47, that's the short end of the stick. All right, that you knew what you're supposed to be doing and you're not doing it. All right, and you now you're gonna get your ass whooped like tremendously. All right, but let's say that you didn't know too much and you know you wasn't dibbling and dabbling how you were supposed to, but the thing is that you still knew, so you're still going to get your ass whooped. It's not going to be as worse as the person that thought that they could get over on me. All right, but you're still going to get your ass whooped. All right, so again, moral of the story: you can't run away from this thing, man. You can't run away from doing the works. You can't run away from the will of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. All right. The Lord is going to get it out you one way or another. All right. And what we preach, you know, what brothers preach, man, is do it right the first time. You know, why do you want to come back through, you know, righteous man loins if you have the opportunity to be that righteous man? You know, just make it make sense. You want to get it right the first time. You know, you want to be in the remembrance of the people who put their life on the line for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua when it was time to do so. All right, who heard that call, who heard, you know, who opened the door, allowed the Lord to come and sup with them. All right, and just flowered, you know, from that point, you know. But I'm gonna read an NLT real quick and I'm gonna end it off. Verse 47 in the NLT says, and a servant who knows what the master wants but isn't prepared and doesn't carry out those instructions will be severely punished. But someone who does not know and then does something wrong will be punished only lightly. When someone has been given much, much will be required in return. And when someone has been entrusted with much, even more will be required. All right. So the Lord has entrusted us with much, man. All right. We have a duty that we need to continue to do, you know, and we have to continue to do it at a high level, you know, until the Lord comes back. All right, and then we get that reward. All right, so That was pretty much the lesson. I pray that it was edifying. I'm trying to get out of here. I want to give infinite honors and prayers to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, you Akim, you Akwaz, which are brothers and sisters in the Hebrew that believe. And Shalom.